was told that that was not appropriate anymore for a 13-year-old, so I stopped doing it.
Mr. King, else interpreters. And Mr. King, what's your decision with regard to the scope of cross-examination, whether you wish to have it expanded to direct or no?
I wish to have it expanded.
All right, so noted for the record, go ahead.
Sir, did you get divorced in 2011?
Yes,
And was that by way of a marital settlement agreement that you and your wife then agreed on all the terms and conditions?
yes,
And was one of those terms and conditions you having joint physical custody?
yes.
How old is,
13,
when's he gonna turn 14?
September 1st.
So he's gonna be an adult in just over 4 years.
Yes,
In 2000, well, prior to 2015, were you using a schedule that was week on, week off?
no,
And did it change at some point in 2015?
yes,
And what did it change to?
week on, week off.
Okay. And for the past 8 or 9 years, up until this incident in February, you've had week on, week off visitation.
Week on, week off custody?
Or visitation, sure.
Yes, yes, sir.
All right. Tell me a little bit about,
He's a great kid. Typical 13-year-old right now, I think. Loves his video games, loves being able to talk to his friends via phone, via being social at school, sporting events. I think he's now starting to hint at liking girls. He's talking about buying colognes and already talking about mixing them together to make a different scent. He's just an all-around great kid, very smart, very observant,
how's he doing in school,
great.
specifically?
How's he doing?
Yes.
A's and B's.
And does he have any health problems?
None. Besides allergies, no.
Mental health problems of any kind?
No.
Would you consider the friendly term fling to apply to adultery during a marriage?
No.
And I guess, were you the victim of adultery in this case?
Yes.
And did that contribute to the ultimate divorce?
Yes.
And you haven't disputed the content of any of the text messages, have you?
No.
And you were mad?
Yes.
In these last 9 years, before the order in February, has your ex-wife made requests to change visits?
Yes.
Okay. Did you make a calculation as to how many changes she requested?
Yes.
What amount?
It was around 150.
Okay. Give me a couple of examples.
Not vacations. Wanting my time to go on vacation, and then it's a lot of things to do with new family, with the other child, with can we do this? Can we do going on like parades and stuff like that? That now does, excuse me, Miss now does, being who she is.
Did that present any problem for you, having received so many requests to change?
It's agitating, yes,
Why is it agitating?
because I feel it's a constant. I feel it's a constant intrusion into my time.
Well, when she was requesting changes, would she be offering, trade-off time to equalize?
Yes,
So why did that bother you?
because it again went into being pulled in every direction at a set schedule.
And can you give me an example where it created a problem because of a change?
It's why he's seeing his counselor now.
You've heard the testimony of the other party, have you not?
Yes,
Have you ever pointed a gun, loaded or otherwise, at her?
no,
Have you ever threatened to shoot her?
no,
Have you ever held a gun to her head?
no,
Have you ever forced her to have sex with you by use of a gun?
no,
Have you committed acts of sexual assault?
no,
Have you, well, let's talk a little bit about background. Back in 2011, when you were getting divorced, what was your business or occupation?
I was a renal fireman.
Okay, how long were you a renal fireman?
Seven to 8 years at that time?
Okay, is that your total employment with the fire department?
No,
Okay, from when to when did you work for the fire department?
2003 to 2015.
Okay, and did something happen in 2015 that ended your working career?
Yes,
And what was that?
I have a heart condition.
And are you now medically unable to work?
Yes,
What kind of days and hours were you working back in the years 2010 and 9 when the affair was occurring?
it was a complicated schedule. It was, I believe, called a Kelly schedule, and the fire department worked 1 day on, we had 1 day off, 1 day on, 1 day off, 1 day on, and then we had 4 days off, and then the rotation started over.
It would repeat itself.
Yes, sir.
When you were on the 1 day on, was that an 8-hour shift or some other amount of time?
24-hour shift.
Okay. And when you were, the 4 days that was off, right? So you had a 24-hour shift every other day, and then 4 days off work.
Yes,
And would that sometimes roll over and not be the same days of the week?
yes, it was constantly changing.
Okay, so you could be working on a weekend or not working on a weekend?
Yes,
Did, excuse me, I want to get this correct. Elizabeth write a letter at your direction?
yes,
And did you ask her to write it?
yes.
Why did you ask her to write it?
I was really hurt at the time that it had happened, and I was jealous, and I knew that it was somebody prominent, so I wanted her to tell me and explain, like, what did this guy have that I didn't, that would make you go out and have an affair.
Okay. Was any force used in getting her to write the letter?
No,
Do you know, were you present when she composed the letter?
no,
Did she tell you how long it took to write the letter?
yes,
What did she tell you?
about 10 hours.
Okay. Was that 10 consecutive hours, or was it over a period of time?
It was over a period of time.
Did she tell you what period of time?
No,
Were you living together at the time?
no,
And were you present during any of the time that she was composing the letter?
no,
How did you receive the letter?
via email.
And do you know on what device the letter was prepared on?
No,
Did she sign the letter?
no,
Um, When did you first find out about the adultery?
February of 2010.
How did you find out?
A coworker told me.
And did she confirm the truth of that? She meaning, Ms.
Yes,
Did you ever grab her by the neck in an act of domestic violence?
no,
Did you ever punch a hole in a wall?
no,
Were the police ever contacted in regards to alleged violence by you upon your wife?
no,
Has your wife ever accused you, while you were still together, of sexually assaulting you? Or, I'm sorry, sexually assaulting her?
while we were together,
Yes.
no.
When did these allegations begin to come in?
February of 2011, I believe.
Okay, that's a few months after the child was born?
Yes,
And at that point, were you living together or not?
not.
Where were you living when she wrote the letter?
Here in Reno?
Okay, at the same address as her?
No.
Okay, what was the arrangement? A rental and ownership or what?
Oh, yeah, I had a empty rental house that I was staying in.
And she was staying at where you lived together as husband and wife?
No, we had moved into a rental property.
Okay. Did you ever make a threat to kill her?
No,
Did you ever make a threat to kill?
no,
Did you ever choke?
no,
Did you ever pull your wife's hair
no,
or spit on her?
no,
During the marriage, before you separated, were you the owner of any firearms?
Yes,
What did you own?
I had one handgun and one shotgun.
Okay. And were these ever used in a threatening manner towards your wife?
No,
Did you ever require your wife to sleep in a car?
no,
Are you aware of her ever sleeping in a car during her pregnancy?
now I am, yes.
Okay, but at the time were you aware?
No,
Did you go with your then pregnant wife to your mother's home in May of 2010?
yes,
And where would that have been?
Pismo Beach, California.
And was there an act, or were there any acts of domestic violence during that visit?
No,
Did you have an argument with your wife?
yes,
Okay. What was the argument about?
I can't recall.
Was your mother present?
Yes,
Um, Did you ask your wife to kill herself?
no,
Have you heard before this term, bad or good?
yes.
In what context has this term come up?
I use that term if, well, it was when I had drank some gin at one point and it did something to me that made me not very nice, so I stopped drinking gin
When are we talking about approximately?
when I was 18.
Okay, I
Oh.
don't want to do the math.
Sorry. 1997.
Did you have sexual relations with your wife 2 days after she delivered?
No,
Are you a drinker?
yes,
And how frequently do you drink?
right now, not often at all.
Okay, I don't know what that means.
The last drink I had was during the playoffs of this year, so the end of January.
Playoffs of,
Oh, excuse me, of football, the NFL playoffs.
okay. And what are your intentions in regards to drinking during times that you have your child?
I don't. 99% of the time, I don't.
Do you have any problem with a condition that would include not drinking during visits and for up to 24 hours before the commencement of a visit?
Do I have a problem?
Yes.
No,
Do you use any drugs?
cannabis,
Okay. How frequently?
a couple times a week, if.
Okay. Same question as alcohol. Would you have any problems with having a condition that would restrict you from using marijuana for the time that you would have visitation with your son and up to as long as 24 hours before the beginning of the visit?
Do I have a problem with that?
Yes.
No.
Okay. One of the witnesses testified that you grow marijuana. Have you ever grown marijuana?
No.
Do you have grow lights?
Yes,
Okay, for what purpose?
I have, or used to have a garden,
Okay,
grow vegetables.
okay, an indoor garden?
No,
Okay, again, tell me then, what was the grow lights for?
when you start plants from seed, it's easier to get them going inside, and then you can transfer them outside once they're ready to be planted.
All right. The Ex-wife has alleged that you've forced her into sleep deprivation. In other words, to stay awake all night. Have you done that?
No.
She testified that you ultimately had your final separation, I think she described it as late summer of 2011. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Were there prior separations?
Yes.
How long and when?
Between February and, between February of 2011, 2010, through, I believe, our divorce, we were back and forth several times.
How long a period of time when you separated?
And staying in other places, or just
Yes.
weeks?
Okay. Now, did you say February 2010, so before the child was born, there were separations?
Yes.
Do you have a therapist?
Yes.
Who is that?
Siobhan Collins,
And how frequently do you see her?
once a week.
How long have you been seeing her?
3 years.
I'm sorry.
I believe 3 years.
3 years, okay. And what does she do for you?
Helps. She's there to listen to me talk and give advice. She helps me work through particular problems that I have. Helping with different traumas.
What kind of traumas?
Childhood traumas to high school traumas to trauma of the affair to like mine and Miss Perkins' divorce, things of that nature, just my life, just helping me.
Is this the first time you've ever had therapy?
No.
What therapy have you had prior to the current?
I believe my first introduction was trying to resolve things. We saw several therapists.
Okay. Was it all together or separate?
Both.
Okay. Once he got divorced, did therapy for you continue? And I'm sorry, I'm talking about the first divorce, the one in December of 2011.
Yes.
Okay, with who?
With Mr. Cook, Richard Cook.
Okay. And how long did you have therapy with him?
Years until he retired.
Okay. Does that have any reason why you are now with a different therapist?
Yes.
Have you ever seen a child psychologist?
I don't know.
Who is Dr. Weir?
Oh, he was I guess a psychologist. I don't know what the doctor is for that.
All right. And did you see Dr. Weir in part for an evaluation of your parental fitness?
Yes.
And more recently, have you seen Dr. Cord for purposes of an evaluation?
Yes.
And were any reports of Dr. Weir provided to Dr. Cord?
Yes.
And were any reports provided by your therapist, Mr. Cook, to Dr. Court?
I provided an old letter from Dr. Cook to Mr. Court, yes.
All right. And did you provide any information regarding your current therapist to Dr. Court?
Yes.
During the time between your discovery of the adultery and the entry of the decree of divorce, were you stalking Mrs.?
No.
She testified that you had surveillance equipment and cameras inside your home. Is that true?
No.
After the divorce, when did you become aware that she was now dating again?
Was 18 months maybe, so let me do the math. So maybe the January, beginning of 2013?
Did you care?
No.
Have you ever attempted to take your own life?
No.
In the exhibits, it shows a lot of text messages between the two of you. And do you recall your ex-wife's testimony that you had erased some text?
Yes.
Did you erase some text?
No.
Was there anything that would have prevented you from erasing all these texts in 2010, 11, and 12?
To prevent me?
Yeah.
I never had access to her phone.
Okay. When were you ordered to participate in Our Family Wizard?
2015, I think,
Okay. And-
August.
I see. And have you been regularly communicating with each other by that means?
Yes.
I see in one of the exchanges that you agreed to meet to get a passport.
Yes.
Okay. Would you expect somebody that's willing to meet with you to get a passport would not want to do that because they're afraid of you?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I'll wait for the question. Do you take any medication that's been prescribed by a doctor?
Yes.
What do you take?
It's an like a depression and then an anxiety.
It serves both purposes?
Two different.
Two different.
Yes, sir.
Okay. How long have you been taking these medications?
Five years?
And do they help?
Yes.
And who prescribes these medications?
My family doctor,
Who is?
Dr. Bobby Kalo.
Have there been any changes in the frequency or the dosage of these two medications?
There was one change at the beginning.
Okay, but for most of the 5 years, it's been the same?
Correct.
What are the requirements of the medications as to whether they can be taken in conjunction with use of alcohol or marijuana?
I don't know. I didn't read it.
All right. Mrs. testified that you have high conflict co-parenting. Do you co-parent with your ex?
Yes.
Give me an example.
Take to appointments, making sure he has all of his school supplies, making sure he has all of his school uniforms. I don't know, that's about it. I mean, we co-parent around for all of his needs.
Okay. She further characterized your dealing with co-parenting as being a high conflict situation. How would you characterize the conflict between the two of you?
More irritating than anything.
She testified that you don't participate in medical appointments anymore. Is that true?
She did testify to that, yes.
Okay. I don't want to talk about February to now, but before February, what was your involvement in any kind of doctor, dentist, eye doctor appointment?
We tried to even it up. Like, if she took one appointment, then I would take him to the next. If I couldn't make that appointment, she would take him twice or vice versa.
Do you recall when the last appointment that you took him to?
The last appointment I took him to was, I believe, one of his checkups for his teeth at his dentist. I do not recall when.
Approximate year?
A year.
A year? I mean, 2023?
A year ago.
Okay.
I have not taken him to an appointment this year.
She also testified that you failed to appear at a medical appointment. Did that occur?
I missed one appointment, yes.
Okay. What participation do you have at the child's school?
I've been to like a parent night, we've gone, and he's shown us around like during the first day back to check out all of his classes, find out where his locker is, make sure the code works. Other than that, this year I've not been at the school.
Okay, you're currently not allowed to go to the school.
Correct.
Right. Well, before then, does the boy participate in any extracurricular activities?
Right now, I don't know.
Okay. When did he last participate in activities that you're aware of?
He stopped playing soccer at the end of last year. He didn't want to play anymore. And I believe he wrestled at school this year.
Okay. Do you attend activities when you can?
Absolutely,
Does Mrs. activities?
absolutely.
Where does she sit in contrast to where you sit at these activities?
If she's there before me, I move far away.
Okay, and if it's the other way around, where you showed up first, where does she end up sitting?
She comes sits right near me.
Even if the child is out playing?
Yes,
Um, You heard her testify about some yelling at the first day of school. I think it was in 6th grade. Do you recall that incident?
yes.
Okay, what happened?
It was the orientation for 6th grade. We were outside on the field. All the 6th graders and their parents were there. 50 yards away was the principal trying to enunciate all of what he was saying to everybody about the first day of school. And several of his friends were running around, and myself and several other parents told our kids to stop, like we couldn't hear what was being said by the principal. And that's what happened. It was, we told our kids to stop, and they stopped.
I think the allegation was that you were yelling at your son and that he was crying.
That was the testimony, yes.
Okay, did that occur?
No,
Did you meet with Dr. Cord and your son at the same time?
yes,
And was there a discussion regarding a range, like 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 100?
yes.
Objection, vague. Question.
I'm gonna allow it because he seems to know, but I agree that it's vague. Go ahead.
What was the context in which this subject came up?
His fear of me.
Okay. And what was he asked by Dr. Cord?
On a scale of 1 to 100, how would you rank your fear?
Okay. And the response was?
Objection, hearsay.
Mr. King?
Dr. Cord is going to be testifying. I mean,
Yes.
at most, I'd ask to make the record now and we can tie that in when he testifies.
Well, Dr. Cord is an expert witness, correct?
Yes.
So he can rely on hearsay. How does this witness get around it?
It's not hearsay. The child has already testified. And Dr. Cord is going to be available for testimony.
The child wasn't asked about that particular question during his testimony. Dr. Cord as an expert can testify as to hearsay. This witness cannot. Now, obviously, if Dr. Cord testifies one way and this witness has something else, that might be reason for rebuttal. But as of right now, the objection hearsay is sustained. Go ahead.
Did you burn any property?
No,
On February 4th, why did you get so upset?
because didn't respond to texts and phone calls.
Okay. How did that make you feel?
Upset and kind of hurt.
Was happy when you got divorced a second time?
Yes,
And did that affect your behavior as well?
no, I was unhappy a marriage was ending, but no, I don't think it affected my behavior.
Okay. What is the status of your mental health, if you know?
I'm okay. Like, how do I feel?
No.
I feel fine.
Would you describe the relationship between and you?
Oh, extremely strong.
Can you elaborate?
I think we have a good relationship. We joke all the time. We have our inside jokes. We have fun together. If he needs help with homework, I help him. He's constantly wanting me to watch him play his games, which I do until they make me dizzy. We go out to eat a lot. We cook together a lot. That's one thing I really enjoy doing with him. I think it's just an all-around good relationship, yes.
Is there any ritual in regards to schoolwork, homework?
Yeah, when he comes home, it's let's get your work done, and then it's free time.
Does it require you helping him in any regards with the homework?
Not all the time, no.
What's his best subject?
I'd have to say maybe math or science. I know his favorite is PE, though.
Do you believe that your son is of sufficient age and capacity to form an intelligent preference as to his custody?
I think he could, yes.
Is there any reluctance, if you believe, on his part to express such a preference?
Objection. That's calling for speculation with respect to opinions.
I think both of them sat through the child's testimony and they would be able, as lay witnesses, to describe if they thought their child was reluctant. So on that basis, the objection is overruled. The witness can answer.
Do I need to repeat that?
Please.
Okay. Do you believe that there's any reluctance on your son's part to express a preference as to his custody and visitation?
Yes.
How so?
I don't think he wants to choose, and I believe he wants it to stay the way that it was, with week on, week off, I believe.
Motion to strike, that wasn't responsive to the question.
Mr. King,
I'll submit it to the question.
the objection and the request to strike are granted. The answer, however, stands. Asked about the reluctance, he did answer yes, he's reluctant to have to choose. Everything after that is stricken. Go ahead.
There was some testimony earlier about the child not liking week on, week off. Did that ever occur in these past 9 years?
No.
Objection vague. I'm not understanding what Mr. King's asking.
I don't actually either, so I'm gonna sustain the objection. If you wouldn't mind rephrasing.
And I'm sorry about that.
No, that's okay. It's completely acceptable to laugh at my inability to understand the questions. Were we talking about the counseling again and the need for counseling, or were we talking about something else?
No, I have in my notes at some point, the witness testified that the child did not like the week on, week off.
Okay,
So-
so what
so-
question do you have in that vein?
Okay.
So not about counseling.
Did the child express to you, not liking week on, week off?
Objection, hearsay.
Mr. King?
I'm pretty sure that was covered in the canvas of the child.
It would be, but the child testifying to his own thoughts and feelings versus father testifying to the child's statements is what Ms. Hardy Cooper's objection is.
All right, I'll withdraw it.
Right.
Have you accommodated any of these 150 requests to alter visitation schedule?
Yes,
Um, Have you made requests to adjust the visitation custody?
yes,
And is it anywhere near the same number as with the requests made by her?
no,
Do you believe that you continue to make those kinds of adjustments to foster frequent associations with the child?
yes,
Is there anything that restricts your ability to meet the needs of the child?
no,
Do you have bad days?
of course.
Okay. What would you describe as being a bad day?
Just feeling down in the dumps.
Is it something that requires the attention of a doctor
No,
or medication?
no,
Do you drink excessively?
no,
Was there a point in time in the past where you drank excessively?
yes,
When was that?
five, 6 years ago.
Okay. And what brought that to an end?
I believe I just kind of woke up one day and said, you don't need to do this.
Do you smoke marijuana excessively?
No,
How many pages long is the letter that was written by Ms.
13,
Is it single space?
yes.
And what's in it?
Her recollections of her affair.
13 pages worth?
Yes,
Other than an admission of adultery, what is in the letter that would cause any concern?
I'm not aware of any. No, nothing.
Is your son afraid of you?
No,
Was he afraid of you on February 4th?
Mr. King, will you say that again? I just
Oh,
couldn't hear
was
you.
he
I'm sorry.
afraid of you on February 4th?
Thank you.
I don't know.
We've had some testimony about the death of two animals. I want to ask you about each of those. As to the animal that died outside the home, where was that home?
South Reno?
Okay, is that close to Damani High School?
4 miles.
Oh, okay, so it's a ways away. Where is it?
It's off a toll road, up Geiger Grade, going into Virginia foothills.
Okay, and is that where you live now?
Yes.
And what happened?
I got a new dog, and that night we stayed up late, and I had the door cracked about yay far in the for the sliding glass door, and she was running in and out and in and out, and all of a sudden she didn't come back, and I searched for her and I drove around looking for her. Couldn't find her. Came back to the house several hours later because it's dark. Got up again at 6 and drove around some new construction that they were doing around the house, asking if anybody had seen the dog. Nobody saw the dog. And I came back to my house. I did a quick search of the yard. And at the very end of my yard, there's a hill, and then it goes down to where the fence is, and I found her body beyond that hill.
Is that within the confines of your property?
Of my fence, yes.
And is there a fence all the way around?
Yes.
What kind of fence?
Your typical, I believe, 6-foot wood fence?
Okay, were there gaps?
No.
So the dog's body is found inside or on your property in the back?
Yes.
Did you hear the circumstances that were presented in the testimony by Mrs.?
Yes.
Okay, did that happen?
No.
Objection, that's vague as well. I'm not sure what testimony we're hearing from this.
I agree. Could you narrow that down? I
Okay.
believe that the testimony for me is that she believed the wild animals had taken the dog because the dog had been left out over the evening. So if there's something I'm missing.
Did you punish the dog by locking it outside?
No.
Did anybody ever accuse you of locking the dog outside?
No.
The other dog, now this is the one that, what do I understand, what happened to that dog?
Can we narrow down which dog we're talking about? We have 3. I believe that we have Emmy, Molly, and Nola. I look back to my notes.
That's my
Just
memory
for clarity, are Nola and Emmy yours and Molly was Lindsay's?
Yes.
Okay, so which dog did we just finish talking about, sir?
No.
Okay, so we still have Emmy left?
Emmy.
Did I get that name correct?
Correct.
Okay. Emmy, please.
Okay, what happened to that dog?
We were driving up to take her to school, and as we were going up a Karen, getting into the turn lane to turn left onto Collin Ranch Road right there, I had come to a stop, and the window was down maybe yay far, and Emmy's paw hit the window to let it down, and she immediately, I don't even know if she jumped. I don't think she was like leaning up against with her head out the window, and then her paw hit the window down, and it was almost like she had tumbled out. And I immediately started screaming like, Emmy, Emmy, and put the car in park. I opened up the door. She was running down McCarran, so she was running past the cars that were backed up behind me. And she darted out into oncoming traffic, and there unfortunately wasn't a light, and she got hit, and I'm assuming she was killed instantly, but I still wanted to take her to the emergency room, and so I put her in the back of my car, and I went to the vet, or the animal ER hospital over there off of Neal Road.
Okay. So, can you tell me can you estimate in inches how open that window was before the dog hit the window button?
6.
And had the dog been trying to crawl out through that opening before then?
We had both windows down on each side, that same amount, and she was a puppy, so she was going from window to window, depending on if I was driving or stopped. It was just that puppy constant movement.
Have you ever abducted your son?
No.
Have you ever committed an act of physical domestic violence upon Mrs.?
No.
Has your son been able to maintain a relationship with his half sibling?
Yes.
Is there any medical, mental, physical, developmental, or educational or emotional needs of your son that are in some way different than with a normal child?
No.
Why do you believe that Jerry Goddard has manipulated anything in this case?
Because of things she has told me.
Your Honor, may I inquire, what is the date of my filing the notice of appearance?
I'm gonna ask the court clerk to see if she can look too. One of us will find it quickly. I have. That's what I have too. It's a substitution of attorneys. But when you actually look at it, it's a substitution of Mr. substituting you in place of him. It was signed February 7th and filed February 9th.
Thank you.
then you did a formal notice the same date about,
Filed February 9th.
yes, they're both file stamped 9:51 a.m., 47 seconds, they must have been right behind each other.
All right. Prior to February of 2024, was it common for father and son to kiss each other goodbye?
Yes,
Any complaints about that before February 2024?
no,
And when I say kissing, I mean like kissing on the lips as opposed to on the cheek, on the top of the head.
correct?
Did the court give you some direction at a prior hearing regarding what you can do and what you can't do at the Family Peace Center?
Yes.
What do you recall?
I recall that the first visit, the whole visit was I recall slipping a little bit with my questions and or statements with, and then when the visit ended, I thought it was gonna be like a normal, when we leave each other, and I asked for the kiss. And I was told that that was not appropriate anymore for a 13-year-old, so I stopped doing it.
This is your only child?
Yes.
Well, what I was really referring to is a hearing in this room with this judge where she directed you as to what was inappropriate about the contents of conversations with the boy at the first visit.
Is there objection? I didn't hear a question there.
I believe that you're asking him, does he recall my statements during the hearing? I have checked, it is the hearing on April 10th, 2024,
Yeah.
with regard to statements.
Right.
So just right now, without recalling the specific details, do you remember my expectations that I laid down at a hearing on April 10th, 2024, regarding how you were to communicate with?
Yes.
Okay.
Next
And
question.
what do you recall?
That I shouldn't give him a kiss at the end, that I need to stay away from speaking about adult things and to keep it to more focused time about and what's going on with him.
Do you understand today why the comment that you cannot wait for this to be all over is inappropriate?
I understand it now.
Mr. King, oh, I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
I just wanted my son to know that I loved him, so.
How much more do you have? And I'm just trying to gauge, if you only have one or two, I would go into the lunch hour. If you have more than that, I'll break now.
It might be 10 or 15, but it might be 30 or more. I'm just not sure. I want to collect my thoughts.
Even if it was 10 or 15, I'm gonna go ahead and break for the lunch hour now then. So we'll take our break. My apologies for interrupting you. We're gonna go ahead and take our break now, and we'll reconvene at 1:30. All right, same rules as yesterday. Feel free to see yourselves out. If you want to leave anything behind, that's absolutely fine. The courtroom will be locked. Deputy Rivera is with us this afternoon, I believe, as well. She'll unlock the courtroom 5 to 10 minutes before we begin, and you'll be welcome to get back in here and get to your things.
And your emergency hearing is tomorrow.
My emergency hearing is tomorrow, and I have made arrangements that I will move around between courtrooms so that you guys don't have to move any of your things. It's just a quick emergency hearing between 1 and 1:30 that I had to squeeze in, but you won't have any impact on your.
All right. So we're back here at 1:30.
Be back here at 1:30 today, please. All right, have a nice lunch. I'll see everybody back here at 1:30.
This court is again in session.
Thank you, please be seated. All right. Council, any housekeeping matters before we begin? We've turned the fan on. I know it gets hot in here in the afternoons. If you need to adjust it, let me know.
Could we get a status on when Dr. Court is gonna be here?
Sure.
I was just gonna say, he is on his way back and he expects that he should be here 2:15 to 2:30, so it feels like we'll be right on second.
Okay. And these for this morning. Okay. My law clerk tells me, as with regard to where we're at on time, I have Ms. having expended approximately 85 minutes, Mr. 64 minutes. That is with adjustments for objections to allocate to the correct party. So that's where you're at for right now. Anything else?
Is that just for today?
That's just for today. I would have to add that to what all I gave you this morning,
Okay.
which I can do. I think when we started, it was at 175 having been used. You were at 51, so these would be in addition to those. Anything else?
And are we
before-
just keeping tally of that to make sure things?
We're keeping
seem
tally
fair
of
at
it.
the end?
We're keeping tally of it, but, and I double checked everything last night. I can find no specific case law that it has to be equal. Obviously, there has been special dispensation for burdens of proof and things like that. The real question is a party adversely impacted by a timing rule? The only known case that I know of, and I forgot the case off the top of my head, was when one of the judges in Las Vegas limited an entire trial to 70 minutes per side, and it was upheld as being reasonable because it didn't truncate either party's rights to fully present the witnesses and testimony that they wanted. So if Mr. King believes that for some reason his time is being cut short, I offered to shorten lunch and other things, and we'll address it at that time, but it's not because we're absolutely equal.
Okay.
Anything else for the record? Okay, all right. Council, please remember, if your water pitchers, I don't know if we filled them during the lunch hour, but let us know if you need something more. We're picking back up with where we left off with Mr. Cross-examination. Mr. King, when you're ready.
All right, I'm ready. I don't think I used this specific word on my examination before. Have you ever hit your wife?
No.
And by this, I mean this.
No.
And has your son ever, to you, refused to come to your home for visit?
To come to my home?
Yes.
No.
Your Honor, that's all I have.
Ms. Hardy Cooper, redirect and expanded to the scope of cross.
Thank you. Can you confirm when was your last drink? You gave a reference that said a playoff game, but do you know what playoff game you're referring to with respect in the football season this year?
I believe it was the last weekend of January.
So just before the Super Bowl?
Yes, I believe it was the last two games before the Super Bowl. It was that Sunday.
Okay. In your direct testimony, you talked about adultery and the fact that you thought was the appropriate term to use for what happened with right?
It's what I use. Yes.
Okay. Aren't you also an adulterer?
Yes.
Okay. And because you committed adultery in your relationship with Ms. Perkins, correct?
Yes.
How many different people did you go outside the marriage with?
Objection and relevancy.
Ms. Hardy Cooper?
I think it's relevant to know the extent of his adultery. He's made a big topic about it throughout this whole case.
But how is it relevant? How does it make a fact of consequence to me in this determination today more or less probable?
With how many?
Yes.
I'll withdraw the question.
And the objection is sustained, but the question was withdrawn. Go ahead.
Okay. And adultery was a contributing factor to the end of your relationship with Ms. Perkins.
Yes.
Okay. You testified that Ms. made her first allegation of sexual assault in February of 2011. What was that allegation at that time?
That Miss had an allegation for.
The first time that she had made an allegation about that you had sexually assaulted her was February of 2011. So I just wanted to know more information about that.
I believe it was when, right around the time she filed the first TPO application. I can't recall the date of that. I think it was around that time.
So that's what you're referring to, though, is that TPO application?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. How many guns do you currently own?
3.
And what are they?
I had a handgun, a shotgun, and a rifle.
What kind of rifle?
LMT, Lewis Machine Tools.
Is that an automatic?
No.
You mentioned that it bothered you, that you were agitated, I believe was your actual word, with her requesting changes to the custody schedule. Do you
Yes.
recall that? And some of the examples you gave were scheduling vacations, right?
Yes.
Family coming out of town, family coming into town, sorry, I said that wrong.
Yeah, everything that goes on along
And
with
then life experiences with her current family.
Yes.
Okay, so wouldn't you agree that those are experiences that benefit?
Yes.
And so really the agitation is just your personal agitation with a change.
Agitation with him in mind.
What year, make, and model, do you have the same car now that you did when the incident with Emmy happened?
Yes.
Okay, what year, make, and model is that car?
2011 Acura MDX.
You heard Ms. testimony that she heard say to you, put the window up, concerned about the dog falling out.
I did hear that, yes.
Okay, do you agree that that was what he said?
That is false.
Okay, what did he say instead?
Well, everything happened so fast. He was on the phone with his mother talking, and then everything sort of happened.
And it was on speaker, correct?
No,
Oh, okay, wasn't?
no, I
Was it on FaceTime?
no, I don't believe so, no.
You testified on direct that the dog was kind of going back and forth between the two sides, right?
Yes.
But you didn't put the child safety lock on in the back?
No. Uses that window.
I'm sorry?
Uses it so he can go up and down on his own window.
Was he in the back seat with the dog?
Yes.
So the dog was jumping over across,
Yes.
so he could have put the window up if he wanted, here's what you're telling us?
On his side, yes.
You testified that you didn't follow after the divorce, right?
That I didn't
You
follow.
didn't follow her around, you didn't stalk her.
Correct.
Okay, both. Didn't follow her around, also didn't stalk her.
Correct.
Okay. And that when Mr. King asked you about whether you cared about her having a new relationship, you said you didn't care. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'd like you to refer to Exhibit 5. Sorry about that. So on page 3 at the bottom, your last two messages, do you see that you say, I just called your dad to wish him a happy birthday. Sorry, this is June 14th, 2012. So this is approximately 7 months after your divorce, correct? Sir?
I'm looking at the
Oh,
date. Sorry.
Did you see that date right there?
Yeah, I'm trying to get the correct value. We divorced in November, so if the math is correct, yes.
Okay. I just called your dad to wish him a happy birthday. I was starting to break down and had to get off the phone. Please, this is killing me. We need to be a family. It kills me that your mom watched B last night because you had a date. Let's stop this. It can all be stopped and we can be together. So you knew she had a date. And you, right?
I guess.
And you brought it up, and it sure sounds like you cared. Right?
Yeah, it's hard to call it quits on a family.
So this is now the next day. So on page 5, this is June 15th. That's the reference time is 7:02 a.m. Let me know when you get to that page.
Okay,
Same exhibit.
yes.
And do you see about halfway down, you say, I was waiting. So I'm sure your parents know all about this since your mom watched B the other night when you went out, trying so hard to get old back, old begging for another chance. Okay, there's 2 things going on in that one. Now, not only do you know that she went on a date, but now you know that her mom was watching while she was on that date. So you obviously were paying attention and cared about her date, correct?
Yes.
After the February 4th incident, we talked a little bit, testified a little bit earlier about the timing and when you talked to Mr. King and when you signed the notice that he was coming back in and when that got filed. Do you recall that conversation?
Yes.
Okay. On Wednesday the 7th, which is the same day that you signed the notice that for Mr. King to come in and represent you, the order had been entered and you went to take out of school in the middle of the day. Isn't that right?
On Wednesday?
Wednesday the 7th.
That is untrue. Or
What day did you go?
Excuse me. I went to pick him up from school. I arrived 10 minutes early that Tuesday because the Monday was the snow day. And then Tuesday he was supposed to be back at school, and that's when I arrived about 10 minutes early and went to go.
So if Ms. Foster comes in and testifies to something different, that you attempted to pick him up in the middle of the day Wednesday, is she lying?
Yes.
Okay, moving to the declaration exhibit that we were looking at earlier from April 17th. On exhibit 1, this is the page after that title page. 5 paragraphs down. Let me know when you're done.
Exhibit 1 is a parental fitness evaluation.
I'm sorry, I was talking about the declaration that we referred to earlier, the March 17th declaration that Mr. signed under penalty of perjury.
And I
That we
believe
talked about
that,
earlier.
and I believe that the exhibit 1, I don't have it, but the exhibit 1 is a document that was attached to that declaration. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Do you have that, Mr. K?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you there?
Yeah, where it says page 3, lines 8 through 10?
Correct.
Yes.
You say, also, is very quick to call the police, right?
Yes.
When you testified for Mr. King on direct, you said she filed no police reports against you during the marriage.
That I know of, yeah.
So that's inconsistent with this statement that she is very quick to call the police, correct?
And somebody was looking in her backyard, yeah.
Okay. You also testified that, on direct, that there were no cameras or surveillance at the home.
Correct.
like you to go to Exhibit 3. We're looking at page 3. You there?
Page 3, yes.
Okay, so this is December 11, 2010. This is after he was born, correct?
Yes.
Okay, about halfway down in the middle of that, you say, I guess no cam, thanks. Right?
Oh, that was a baby monitor. Okay.
Okay, so then the messages go on to where she says the cam is on. You say it's not on my end. There it is, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then she goes on to explain what happened, which is the laptop was slightly shut, so my profile was hibernating, I was not doing anything.
Okay.
Okay, so there was a camera in the house that you were observing her on, correct?
No. That was a baby monitor.
There's
And-
nothing on here that says I'm looking at, correct?
No, but I did not have surveillance monitors or cameras in the house.
She says it's a laptop, according to that message, correct?
Yes, but I don't know how. I never watched on it, that baby monitor, as a gift from, as like a baby shower gift. And she thought it was so cool that I could remotely look into that camera and watch he was sleeping. And that.
Objection,
apparently-
non-responsive, I didn't ask about all the whys of what happened. Let me just write that testimony.
Granted.
Now we turn to page 7 in that same exhibit, Exhibit 3.
Okay.
Okay, on the right-hand side, at December 20th, 2010, at 10:45 a.m. Miss says, the camera's on, I'm off to the side because I'm wrapping presents. Mom is heading out to do errands, I'm staying home because I don't feel up to it, I love you. So this is another example of a cam being on for you to observe while you're not at the house, correct?
Can you repeat the exhibit?
Sure, it's Exhibit 3 on page 7.
Thank
And then what I said was, this is another example of a camera being on where you can observe Miss in the house, correct?
No, it was a baby monitor for the baby. So I don't know what she is talking about in this text message.
You,
Because I
you were
did
never
not-
able to observe her through the baby monitor?
If she stepped in front of it, yes.
You also testified on direct that you didn't burn any property, right?
Correct.
Okay, I'd like you to refer to Exhibit 2, page 3. If you go back a couple pages, you can see that the reference date for this is May 4th, 2010, but I'm going to refer you to page 3, which is a continuation of the conversation. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. At the top of the page, why can't you talk? My guess is in your mouth. Her response is no. You say, do you want me to take pictures of what I'm biting in the fire pit right now? And then you correct it and say burning. Do you see that?
Yes.
So were you lying when you said that?
Yes.
You told Dr. and Dr. Cord in the context of the parental fitness evaluation that you were voluntarily you had quit all drugs, right?
No.
You didn't tell them that you had stopped using marijuana?
No.
Oh, okay. Did you tell them that you had quit using alcohol?
Yes, since that.
And didn't you also tell them that you were voluntarily testing for alcohol and drugs?
Yes.
Okay, then you did not produce any evidence of that here in court, correct?
Correct.
earlier you testified regarding references to bad, other, the thing that word, that was an incident that you didn't like that you had with Jen in 1997, right?
Correct.
You didn't know in 1997, right? Okay, was that enough? They did not know, sorry.
I did not know her.
Sorry, that was a double negative,
No,
so I
excuse me.
apologize. So we look at Exhibit 2, page 11. Do you see that Miss was talking about other on the bottom third of that page? Because here, I'll read it to you.
Oh, I see.
Because you want to hurt, I don't want to hurt you anymore. You and I have talked about this before, and you said you understand and don't want to hurt either. When you weren't other, I love you. She's referring to other from 1997. Is she?
I don't know.
Sorry, I'm going on page. Okay, again, on the same exhibit on page 30. Again, Ms. said, you're telling her to go home. You're in an argument. She says, let me stay and fight. This is other, not real. I love you. You see that?
Is this her? Excuse,
Yeah, it's the last thing she says on page 30 of exhibit 2.
let me stay and fight. This is other, not real. I love you.
That's what I'm talking about. So you see that?
Yes.
Is she talking about the guy in 1997 who had a difficult time with Jen?
No.
Skipping forward to exhibit 5, page 5. Let me know when you're there.
I'm there.
Halfway down the page, you say, I was waiting, so I'm sure your parents know all about this since your mom watched me. We've talked about this for another issue before. The other night when you went out, I'm trying so hard. Old is back. Old is begging for another chance. Please say yes to old. And she says, I'm sorry, please stop. This is so hard. I can only imagine how it feels to you.
Yes.
This is killing me. I want my life back. I'm in a good spot right now, and I've recognized what I did and didn't do. Let me show you. Please don't turn your back on what we had. I just needed time. Old is back and wants his family to be back together. You told us old is the guy who had a problem with Jen. So you're trying to tell her that the guy with Jen from 1997 is back?
I did not say old.
What did you say?
Old in reference to this is during our happy marriage, before the affair. The other is the was happy.
Other is happy. Old is
Was
the
happy.
guy that was happy during the marriage. And then who's the guy who you testified about in 1997 messing with Jen?
My friend said that.
Oh, so bad is that guy.
Yes.
Do you feel like you fully cooperated with Dr. Cord's evaluation of you?
Yes,
Isn't it true though that you didn't fill out certain questions in his evaluations?
there were some I wasn't sure how to fill out.
So you didn't fill out questions related to parent domain, right?
In his report, I don't know what those are referring to. I don't know if those are different tests or if he was supposed to give me more of a test.
Mhm.
But I answered every question on every test that he gave me.
So if he testifies that you didn't answer these questions that were presented to you, he's lying about that?
I would think that he would have asked me before I left to please continue filling out the test because the test is.
That's not the question. The question, you said you filled out everything that he put in front of you.
Yes,
And so you're sticking with that answer, right?
yes,
Okay, so if he says you did not fill out everything that he put in front of you, then he is not telling the truth. That's my question.
correct.
No further questions for this witness?